Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of On Point. Happy Father's Day to you all. Please do me a favor, share this show within your network. Today is no exception. This is Father's Day. I want to say happy Father to Mr. Aliyu Kamara. Elvis Morris, you're the young man out here. Hopefully you are a father. Jimmy Eastman, before we get going, I want to say happy Father's Day to you and tell me briefly, how did you spend your Father's Day? If they didn't treat you well, talk it. You know what they used to say during the political season? They said, Dylan, we're talking. Yekeh, we're talking. Today, Jimmy, we're talking. Aliyu, we're talking. Elvis, we're talking. We will tell on our wives, on our daughters, on the women in our life if you didn't treat us well. Mr. Eastman, how was your Father's Day?
Well, it's still on. It's still early. I expect my girl's supposed to be giving me a treat later on today. But more importantly, I told God thank you that I was able to live up to the role of a father. A father is crucial in our society. He's not just a provider, but he's a leader. He provides vision. He provides the ethics, the sound morals, and children watch their parents as they grow up and they adopt to these morals. So the role is a major and critical role, and I'm very grateful that God gave me the opportunity to meet those demands. So it was a day of gratitude for me.
Thank you, Mr. Kamara. How you doing in Sierra Leone? Because you are a Sierra Leone, you were not from Liberia. Tell me how you're doing in Sierra Leone.
But here's the thing that makes me confused sometimes about the whole Father Day thing. The Father Day thing is so ignored to the point where I can even forget sometimes it's Father's Day. I was sitting in my living room today. My daughter comes out and say, "Hi, Dad." I said, "Hey, what's up?" She said, "Happy Father's Day." I said, "Oh, today's Father's Day." She said, "Yeah, Dad, don't you know?" You see, Father's Day, they sent us text messages. Happy Father's Day. I received several text messages on Father's Day. That's what I got. But then when it's Mother's Day, we better buy something of significant value. I mean, how is this fair now? If we're discussing equality all the time, how come we don't get nothing, but we have to give something? I mean, I don't know what kind of, but all in all, Father Day has been good. It's been great for me all day and every day. It's just the same as far as I know. So I mean, we got 12 hours in the day, 12 hours in the night, probably 24 hours a day total. That's how I see life. But all in all, it's been a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Elvis. You are the baby on the show. You're the youngest son here. How is your Father's Day? How has it always been? We here to tell on our wives and our daughter, women in our life, how have they been treating you? Maybe since we are old men, maybe they treated a younger guy different. Tell me how your day's been going.
No, my day has been wonderful, Mr. Gaben. And I want to say happy Father's Day to you, Mr. Kamara and Mr. Eastman. And also to our family at FOL, Mr. Jai, Mr. Sear. But especially, I want to say happy Father's Day to my father. You know, as men, it's kind of difficult sometimes expressing your love for your dad. It could be kind of embarrassing sometimes. So it's difficult to really express the love that you have for your father. But I think fathers, like Mr. Eastman said, is very important. I think we see a pandemic in this country of absentee fathers, and it plays a big impact on how a child is raised and the heights that a child can reach without without the love and the direction and the discipline of a father. So fathers are very important, especially for girls' children. And we're going to discuss some issues here tonight or this afternoon. But fathers being in their daughter's life is very important. Although I don't have a girl child, but I know the importance of fathers. I have all sisters. I'm the only boy, so I know the importance of fathers. And especially for the females, the fathers is always going to be their bank. I know what my dad goes through with my sisters and the continuous support that he gives them. So happy Father's Day to you, Dad, and happy Father's Day to all the fathers. And thank you for having me on, Mr. Gavin.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please share the show. Gentlemen, panelists, please share the show in your system. We want to be we are honored that for the entire year you have been calling, you have been taking part into our discussions. Today, either you are at dinner with your family, wherever you are, whatever you have done, we want to say thank you. Happy Father's Day. We don't do this. We don't become father and expect something in return. As long as we give the best gift, which is life. And then the second biggest gift is the education and the value that we instill in these children. That when you go on your own and we are no longer here, you can stand on your own 2 feet. Especially us men, we want our women, our daughters to be self-sufficient, so they don't go through what our parents or great-grandparents went through, where the father was totally the breadwinner, the only breadwinner, and she was subjected to some horrible stuff. So for our girls and our women, we are not, Father, expecting anything in return. As long as you appreciate who we are and what we mean to you in life, we are fine with it. My Father Day was beautiful and it continues. As far as my pastor is concerned, every day should be Father's Day. And we see it at Search. Mr. Eastman, thank you very much for coming. Mr. Kamara, you could have been home waiting for the girls to take you out, but you are here. Same thing, Mr. Morris. Young man, thank you very much. Mr. Dr. Pachibo, we're in Ghana. Thank you very much for tuning in. You are a great father. Happy Father's Day to you. And Glendy Juniors, you are also a great father. You may be a woman, but you play the part of a strong mother. You do what a lot of people do. Take care of those children. So happy Father's Day to you. And happy Father's Day, Heavenly Father's Day, to Honorable J.D. Jr., late J.D. Juniors, a strong, hopefully you can call me a travelist, a strong Bassa man, our county attorney. He was a mentor to many of us in Grand Bassa County when we were young and growing up. So we want to say Heavenly Happy Father's Day to you all. I also want to extend Heavenly Father's Day to my right-hand man, my adopted father, Dr. G. Franklin Holt Sr., the gentleman that gave me everything, all the opportunities to make it. So we take this time to give everybody at least 1 minute to give the man in your life, whether past or present, that made who you are, give them a shout out. Happy Father's Day to you. Let me begin with Mr. Morris.
Yes, of course, my dad, Paul Morris, my uncle-in-law, Lionel Awodi. You know, those, two has been instrumental in my life. Like I said earlier, Mr. Gavin, father, my dad, that's the one thing I know of my father. He's always been there for me. And again, maybe it's not so much of a good thing, but not a day my dad ever laid his hands on me, even growing up. My mom was the only one. I always take the close way, and be with my dad, a very calm guy, very soft-spoken, but a loving father, always there for his kids. No matter how much, he gets angry with you, when you really need him, he always shows up. So, as a man, expressing my love to my father, it's nothing to be ashamed of, but sometimes we're shy to do it. But I love you, Dad. You've always been there for me. And to my uncle-in-law, who helped, to bring up my family to the United States, with my mom's elder sister. They've always also played an important part in our lives. So thank you, Uncle Lionel, for being there for us as well. But happy Father's Day to other fathers. Thank you, Mr. Gimme.
Good. Mr. Kamara, we don't want to say Father Day only to our father, but there were other men, generations of men in your life, in everybody's lives. You want to give a shout out to them, whether they are here or they in heaven?
Mr. Gimmer, you'd be surprised to know that I never met my father a day in my life. I only heard of him. And I had never had that experience. The experience that Morris is explaining, the experience that my children have had with me being with them from the day they were born until now. I'd never had that experience. My father thing has always been with women. a lot of people don't know because of my persona. I'm very, I have a strong will, and people think, blah, blah, blah. But my upbringing have always been women. My mother's siblings, females, were the ones who raised me. Yes, I have uncles who love me, but were not in the position to take care of me. So it's always been women who took care of me. My late auntie, I don't know what should I say, a Father's Day to her like you did with Glenn. Auntie Malofo Kamara, she's dead and gone now, thanks to Ebola for some reason. My auntie Makeme Kamara, she's also gone now. And few others, but I like to give this particular Father Day to my grandfather, my grand uncle, so to speak. Our tradition, there'll be a grandfather. There's no such thing as grand uncle. Lucini M. Kamara of 18th Street. Even though I was already an adult before I moved over to him, but he was the first person that I actually experienced, like living under a father, son or grandfather, grandson kind of thing. For me to have a really male role model experience, he was the first. And at this time, I was already 21 years old. So that's when I began to actually experience it. I had a bad experience with fathers when I had to live with my stepfather. So I don't have a whole lot of Father Day experience to give you in terms of men. I am the great guy that I am because I was created naturally this way, and I can give all of this to the women of my family.
Thank you. Well, some women, single mothers, single parents, it happened especially for the war. The war took away a lot of men in Liberia. So these women, these single women became mothers and fathers. So for those of you women out there who wore both hats, father and mother, this is also for you because without you, we wouldn't be here. Mr. Eastman.
Well, I find it incredible sometimes, how we grow up. Nobody really knows, and we have to learn from life. I was fortunate to have grown up with my dad, and my dad came from an era where the Liberian philosophy was changing a little bit. You see, as we all know, in early Liberia, we had almost two classes, and that one class was at a more disadvantage than the other. But at the turn of the century, let's say around about after the World War in the 50s, the philosophy and the mentality started to change. That everybody should have a right and entitlement to pursue their good and their family's good. And so that era was where my father emerged from. So from an early age, he was pointing out to me some of the ills that we practice and that should be abolished. So that had a very strong influence on me. The way I look at things generally from very early, my dad had already told me there's certain things that are wrong and we should not be doing. So he had a huge influence on me. He was also in the service. So I had a very impactful, and I'm grateful to him for it. One thing I'm not grateful to him is we all take a shot every now and then because he used to like it, but philosophically and the ethics and the moral code he gave me, I'm very grateful that he did. It helped me navigate through, especially during difficult times where you see like we have going on today in Liberia. He from a very early age he told me, there's certain things that are just right, and you should always stand for what is right, not what is popular. So I appreciate it. Shout out to you. My dad's long passed. He passed in 95, but happy Heavenly Father's Day.
Thank you very much. And this brings us to the topic of today. One of the major topics of today. I mean, as we are saying, if you are a talk show host, if you are a podcast, whatever it is that you have, you will not be shy or lacking in selecting topics in Liberia when we talk about current event. Even as we speak, we are having issues with selecting a plethora of topics. You name it, we came up with maybe 1,000, and we had to wind it down to a few. But talking about women, Mr. Eastman, you talked about at the turn of the century, you begin to see the culture shifts from a complete male chauvinistic kind of attitude to a more
Mr. Gilman.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Gilman, I understand we're on a political forum, but I am a man who also hold my gender at a very high extent. At least let's be respectful to us. All you can't just say a male chauvinistic. That means we're not reading history correctly.
Okay. So
let's select and not generalize.
Okay, great. From time immemorial, from biblical and Quranic time, male has always been dominant in almost every facet of society. What Mr. Eastman is saying, at the turn of the century or mid in the 50s, there began a shift in our methodology, in our thinking, in our philosophy. Like Nelson Mandela used to say, one of the reasons why Africa it is where it is that we cannot operate at 100% capacity when we are actually operating at 45%, meaning 55% of our population, any way you look at it, are women. If you leave them behind and you say only the men, which is between 45 and 50%, should operate at a maximum of 50 or 100%. It's impossible. What he was saying was the societies that gravitated towards gender equality to some degree have done very well. And he compared to Western society, where in the West, the male and the female are in this to win it. We have education, engineering, science, and technology that women are contributing. In our culture, where we deny women the right to do
Mr. Gilman, Mr. Gilman, no, 1 minute. 1 minute. I want to interject 1 minute.
Go ahead.
I will not stay here for you to completely distort reality.
Okay.
Let us come to the West. Compare. Tell me how many women in Congress compared to men. What is the percentage?
That is
now,
not.
I'm not talking about 1955.
No,
now,
listen.
What is the percentage?
Listen to this. If I went to Saudi Arabia, Iran,
no. You're not answering. That's not the West.
Listen,
not in the West.
Listen to this. If you are comparing.
Today is Father's Day, and we need to have a grand day for the fathers. Don't drag us in the mud just to make things happen.
The topic today is not Father's Day.
Okay, then let leaders.
I'm laying the premise here. So when we are talking about our women, this is coming to this. Now let's talk about politics. Our women are now into politics. They are demanding their rightful seats at the table, and rightfully so. They are standing up. They have been educated. They know what they are doing. And now they have been competitive. Lately, Mr. Eastman, what we are seeing here is the denigration of women by our men who are either in politics or in power. They have always done this. But now that we have social media, it has come to a crescendo. And I'll give you an example. Today, or a few days ago, we listened to Yekeh talking or basically trying to denigrate the vice president of the Republic of Liberia. Few days ago, you heard Keff Hassan, even though in a different context, but talking about a relationship between a male and a female in a different setting. So if this politics, where do we draw the line? What is bringing this out? Are women being bullied in some degree? That's just for you to think about, But why is this happening, Mr. Eastman?
Excellent question, Brother Gaiman. You know, just what you say, because we come from a male-dominated society. In fact, history has taught us that at one point women were only considered a piece of property. They weren't even considered equals. But because we have that history of that, I have noticed that the way when we want to shame people, we try to slut shame women when they're in politics. They will start to talk about the woman who she's sleeping with, who she's doing, having her personal life with. Whereas we know ourselves as men. So many of us are promiscuous and do whatever we want to do. But why is it that anytime we want to bring a woman down, why we try to slut shame? Sorry about that. Why we try to slut shame her? Why we always try to bring her down by making her look, promiscuous or something like that, instead of sticking to the issues, But this is typical of Liberian politics. Liberian politics tends to degenerate a lot. Instead of sticking to a person's capability, what they've been doing, what they can do, we find them going into people's personal lives. And I mean, you are going to be a public figure, so one expects that your life will be on display. But to willfully, try to denigrate a woman, and where you are guilty of equal or worse, I think we need to move away from that dirty politics and take a higher ground, unless we will not, we'll find this not developed. It will remain underdeveloped. Just like you said, if we don't respect, we don't. In fact, we should have justice. We should have respect for others, honesty, humanity. All these things are elements we have to espouse if we're going to promote ourselves to another level. As long as we disregard these key tenets and ethics and moral code, we as a people, we will stay underdeveloped, because those are things that are required to go to the next level.
Great. Mr. Kamara, Mr. Yekeh Koluba said he tirade against the vice president because the vice president referred to him as a former rebel. He said he took an exception to that. Most people know that even Yekeh Koluba himself, he keeps saying that we fought war. I fought war. I was in the movement. All of that. If it is so, what set him up so bad that he went on talking about her bedroom ethics, how many men she slept with, and all of that? I mean, why?
Mr. Gilman, first of all, before I go there, let's set certain things straight. I am an African, and I'll always defend the integrity of the people of Africa. When you go to Jamaica today, Jamaica has their $500 bill. There's a woman on it, a woman from Ghana, who was captured by the British. She was a general in the Ghanaian military at the time, or whatever they call military. Today, as we speak, Jamaica honors her. Look for Jamaican $500 bill. She's on there. How many women on American bills? How many women on European bills? Show me one. When did women get the right to vote in America or participate in politics compared to Africa? When we had Swakoko, who was controlling a military of all men, and she was instructing them back in the day. So you cannot make a sweeping statement and say, these people over here, their stuff is better than ours down there. We've been treating women terribly and this and that. No, that's a terrible statement. That means you really don't know the fact. Now let's come to the issue of Liberian men trying to shame women and this, that, and the other. Look, first we have to understand: was it intended to attack someone because they're females, or was it just because someone is trying to hit below the belt? Let's understand those facts. When we got around here against George Weah, that George Weah can sleep with everything he sees. Some people accuse George Weah of sleeping with a 16-year-old, even though they don't even know that. Was it done to George Weah because George Weah was a man? When Mo Ali had a sexual interaction with a 20-year-old woman, and that stuff hit the airways, and Mo Ali were being demonized, I mean, completely destroyed on social media. Was that done because Mo Ali was a man? Even though come to find out later the child wasn't even his. Have you ever heard people talk about that since they found out that the child wasn't even his? Or isn't even his? Is it because he's a man? I don't support people attacking anyone. Let me tell you, like Mr. Ismail said something that I actually agree with. Generally, our politics is toxic, and I think there's a need for us to evaluate how we actually dispense our politics. And I agree with that. But to think that because of one person's gender, they can go ahead. In fact, my sister Francine, she brutally attacked Mo Ali, that Mo Ali was using his place of power and abusing a young girl, which is 20 years old. Mo Ali found it very difficult to defend himself against Francine. Did she attack Mo Ali because Mo Ali was a man? No. I think she attacked Mo Ali because she actually thought she had a reason to do so. Maybe she's a feminist. So whatever that man is doing, why you calling Yekeh Kolba? I think Yekeh Kolba is a nuisance. I think Yekeh Kolba is a waste of my time. Actually, I don't think any man who is responsible should speak like Yekeh Kolba does. This guy you call Keff Hassan. Keff Hassan goes after everyone. If you are in the public space, people will go after you. And it's so difficult to actually engage people with clear conscience if you have to be afraid of being labeled as misogynist, as sexist, as this, that, and the other, just because the other gender is a female and they have the right, they can attack you, but you cannot attack them. I'm just being straightforward here. Listen, there are many things you can do without being in a public sphere if you're too sensitive about your gender.
Great. Maurice, we have to go into this. I have to disagree with Mr. Kamara in every facet. When you take, you see, the reason I disagree with Mr. Kamara is when you take anecdotal texts and apply it to the general. When you talk about one person in the history of Liberia, you talk about Madame Swakoko.
That was an example. Yeah, I can give you many. Mama Komalo, Lango Lepe. I can give you many.
Excuse me.
Okay.
When you compare that. You know, somebody line is open. And then you go out there and say this now, Mr. Morris. We are talking about the attack on women in this political season. It is unlike we have seen in the past. Is it because they are women? Because what the vice president said was very factual. That Yekeh Kolba is a former rebel, which is fact. He admitted to it, he knows. What that has to do with, he said she has slept with 80 women, 80 men, and he went on. I don't have to repeat what he said. But what is going on here? You are muted.
Something must be wrong. I haven't heard him say anything, which is very strange.
Okay. Mr. Kamara, Mr. Eastman, here we are, and everybody has their own opinion, but we have been witnessing lately the murder of women in Liberia by their husbands. We are talking about, in the last month or so, we have had about 6 women being murdered, brutally murdered by their husbands. Isn't this the same cultural thing here we're talking about?
Yeah, it's related. The idea, because the male is a more physically stronger, when it comes to fighting and battle. And I say that because women, the kind of things women do, some of us men, we don't have that, you know, endurance to persevere as much as they do. But because we're biologically bigger and we're biologically stronger for fighting and battle, I guess God made it that way. So we take advantage of them, they being the weaker vessel. So we will take advantage of them, and that compared to how we regard our politics, how we regard the job market today. Women comparatively are paid less than men. But just what Mr. Kamar said, I want us to tune into something here, because I think there's some terrible disregard. We're missing a point here. Our women raise the children all the time. The father may leave the home, and it's up to the woman to raise the children. Sometimes single-handedly, she will raise 3, 4 children.
Are you
That
hearing
is
me?
why it is essential. Yeah, that
I'm
is
hearing you guys.
why it is
I can see you hearing me, but I'm not hearing you, so I don't know what's going on.
Go off and come back in. Just send him a text.
yeah. Go in and come back. Jerome, because the fact that the woman is almost duty bound to take care of the children, regardless of the circumstances of the father, it is essential that we develop our women, educate our women. A lot of times they used to just educate the men, but the women are the one who take care of the children. So if we were educating our women, bringing them up to a standard, who's going to benefit? The children will benefit. They will reap the benefit of a well-trained, educated mother who will be able to expose them to ideas, to ways of life, and everything. So we have to uplift our women, and if for no other reason, it's because they will be taking care of our children. They will bring them up. So we should be duty bound to bring them up to a standard, and not in any way look at them as lesser. I went to some pretty decent schools, and I can tell you some of the girls in those engineering schools I went to were way smarter than me. And we have a mentality. If you listen to students in Liberia, the girls, when they talk, they say, "I don't know math. I don't know math." But that's a notion that girls don't know math. That is so untrue. We need to change things. We need to revolutionize. And when I say revolutionize, we need to bring new ideas to our culture, to our way of looking at our lives, so that we can create a new society where women are respected, well educated, and can take better care of our children.
Mr. Kamara,
Yes, sir.
let's talk about economics here. Uh, do does a family benefit if both parents work and are good earners in the home?
Look, this is a great question, a wonderful question. I think that's supposition, in my opinion. Yet it's supposed to be that way. When both family have income, the family is supposed to. But let us look at recent statistics in the last 20 years. When both parents are going out and coming in with money, do they stay married? Let's ask that question. What is the divorce rate as a result of some economic balance between husband and wife? How much damage
I don't know
has
why
that?
I'm not hearing the show.
Hello. So how much damage has that caused to a family? Are our children at home really being breeded and nurtured and nourished, given that mom leaves at 6, dad leaves at 5? Are they being covered, governed? Is this responsible for our children doing drugs and not being properly supervised? So it comes with a wide field of stuff. Now, when people, let me tell you something, Mr. Gilman, and I think I'm really with Mr. Eastman today, given that he's kind of making this thing broad and thereby making it more intellectual so that we can actually get in and pick some things out. When you just make a statement about culture, even in the late, I mean, even in the 60s, 1960, which is recent, women weren't even allowed here to get married to someone that they wanted to be married to if the person wasn't white. So how can you then tell me that, but anyway, that's a whole different debate we can get into, and I can give you reasons why African culture has always been the better culture in terms of women. Now, I agree with Mr. Eastman. I think we enable our girls to an extent to be reliant upon us.
Are you guys hearing me now?
Yes.
Okay, I can hear you, and you guys can hear me good. I think I fixed the problem.
To be reliant upon us when we actually supposed to make the playing field level. And this is what I call equity. Make the playing field level. No, let me just say this. For the time I was growing up, I'm not an old man, but I've been around for a little while. We and the girls sat in the same classroom, shoulder to shoulder, shared the same desk. There were no separation of women and girls. The people who brought separation between women and boys in Liberia, again, were the people from the West, the Catholic, St. Teresa convents, for example. All women, St. Patrick's, all men, split them apart. We didn't do that. We've never been doing that. So we have to, in as much we want to put our sisters up front and make them more independent, we got to open this thing so they can see it from our perspective. And let me tell you, Saudi Arabia, there are women with master's degree, but they rather work from home. They choose to work from home. Okay? But why? They want to be there while their children grow up. In the West, we create a daycare for you. We'll get you incentive, drop your kids off, drop them off 6 o'clock in the morning, pick them up at 8 o'clock in the evening, and go to bed at 9 o'clock. You have no dealings with them. So there are lots of intricacies here that we have to look at as we discuss this thing. It's a very big topic.
Mr. Kamara, you are distorting history so badly that either you are distorting it from a religious view. If you are a Muslim, I understand it.
You see that? That's an attack. But anyway.
Listen.
Let me get my chance. I'm coming to you. Anxious to get in.
I'm coming to you because this is Saudi Arabia where a woman is not allowed to drive. She's not allowed.
Who told you that? Who told you that? That law has been changed a long time ago.
Excuse me. Where the woman has to be escorted by a male, and all of these things. Now you're going to sit here and tell us otherwise. Mr. Morris, go ahead.
Yes, like I was trying to say before, I had some technical issues. I first want to acknowledge that women have free agency over their bodies. And, while somebody is married, I know the divorce rate in this country is over 50%. So women can choose to get into a marriage and easily choose to get out of a marriage. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there first. But to be brutally honest on this topic, let's go back a little bit. There was a time when Yekeh came on the show, and I won't even say he made insinuations, but I think he bluntly said that Keff Hassan was sleeping with George Weah. When George Weah came to DC, Keff Hassan and George Weah was had sex. He was trying to feminize or emasculate Keff Hassan. You heard Eugene Fagon on his platform insinuate similar things about Ben Sanvi, attack his masculinity, said that he was effeminate, he likes to dance with men, all kinds of nonsense. They attacked those guys. When we heard about these guys leaving the platform, we heard that there was some sign of blackmail that I think Timberlake George had on Dr. Richardson, and there was insinuation that it was about, she having an affair with Stanton. So this rumor has been out for almost 6 months. And then you try to juxtapose the two actions by whether it's Dr. Richardson, who is a quote-unquote feminist, or supposed to be a moral authority on a platform, just oppose that to pedophilia and extramarital affair. When Stanton wanted his platform and insinuated that President George Weah was a pedophile, having sex with small children, as they said, pretty much keeping them as sex slave. I mean, the gravity of that accusation compared to a woman who is having an extramarital affair, it's not even similar. A pedophile is somebody who is disgusting, somebody who is doing something that is way out of bounds. Morally, it's wrong for a man or woman to have extramarital affairs, but again, it's not something that is even illegal in this country. But pedophilia is. So you have one side of the spectrum who is going as extreme as possible by accusing one person of being a pedophile, and then another man who is exposing, so to speak, adulterous relationship between two people that he knows. Is it the right thing to do on a public platform? Perhaps not, but it's not as bad as accusing somebody of being a pedophile. And then lastly, to Yekeh, what Yekeh tried to say about the vice president, and we who have one or two brain cells can put things together. He was trying to say that she has hip dysplasia because of how often she's had sex, and some way somehow her hip has been displaced, and that's why she walks in that kind of way, and that's what he was trying to insinuate. But the thing that he doesn't understand, many women suffer from hip dysplasia, sometimes after childbirth, sometimes they're born with it. So Yekeh is a vile human being. He's somebody that is disgusting when it comes to women. He threatens to insult them, threatens to expose them. He's really, really disgusting. So what Keff Hassan said, in my view, I have all sisters. Like I said, I have a mother, of course, who I love and respect. But when it comes to politics, people who are not in a position to be the moral authority should watch, so to speak, watch your back. Because one of the things that Stanton did to disrespect this woman, Keff Hassan said it. They were in a car together. Stanton called this woman and put her on speakerphone in the car and was talking about, whatever sexual encounter they had previously in that day or the previous day on loudspeaker with all of the guys around. That's how they all knew that it was something going on with Stanton. So for me, Dr. Richardson shouldn't feel some kind of way. If you're in politics, if you're strongly talking against one political party and they have any quote unquote opposition research on you that they can expose you for, they're gonna do it. Bill Clinton lost a lot of political cachet because he had a sexual affair with his intern. That's a man who had the burden of sexual promiscuity put upon him, and he lost a lot of political cachet. So it's the same thing for women. And I think, Mr. Kamara, I have to agree with you in that sense. Women and men are equal. When it comes to politics, women and men are equal. When it's in your personal life, you can adore women, you can treat them with respect. But in the political sphere, all things are acceptable, especially when it comes to slander, maligning your opponent. And then lastly, when it comes to the case, Mr. Gaiman, in America, defamation is so hard to prove because you have to prove malice or malicious intent. This person have to knowingly, fabricate false information with the intent to hurt somebody's reputation. And I don't think that's what Keff Hassan was doing, because even hearsay or parody is not defamation. But if this person knowingly made up a lie and spread it with the intent to maliciously hurt somebody's reputation, then you can win defamation. So I don't think that case is going to go anywhere, because this is information that was passed down to him by somebody else, and some things that he heard himself over the telephone or through pictures and text message. I don't think she has a case. It's embarrassing, yes, but it's not illegal. She didn't do anything illegal for her to be worried about any repercussion. Maybe to her husband, it's damaging, but I don't see anything wrong with it, especially with the vitriol that some other politicians like Yekeh spill against women, even against the president's wife. When that book was written about her and all kinds of things were said about her, how she performs in bed, I didn't see Dr. Richardson coming to her aid. So this is not a sisterhood of a traveling pants where all women support women. Some women are selective on their support when it comes to political affiliations. I will leave it there.
Thank you very much. Let me recognize and say happy Father's Day to hopefully I'm getting your names right. Is Rukas, Rukhz, Benedict Phillips, Riverside Pro. Thank you very much, Mr. Spencer Toe. Those of you who are watching us, we want to say Happy Father's Day to you. There's another gentleman that I always watch. Is Adiaha, Adiaha. Thank you very much for watching. Mr. Isma here. Here we are. I know in America here, if somebody does something to you and you know it's going to harm your character and you know you're in the wrong, you tell your lawyer to write them a nasty letter. What is it? Cease and desist, or we're going to sue you for $1 billion, knowing very well you are not in the position to do any of these things. So here we are. If you say your name is being tainted, you're being slandered, or being defamed, will you be in a rare position to now take someone to court where you will go on the witness stand and even make it worse?
Right.
Mr. Eastman, it has to be a bluff, because I listened to it myself and I talked to some league of mine, and they said nobody whose name has been tarnished in the public like this would like to get on the witness stand, especially where the kind of graphic things that we are talking about. Keff Hassan says he got text messages, he got photos, because Stanton Waterspoon likes to use women as trophies. Every time he say he used the word knock it down, knock this one down, he got them, he left to brag to Kev. Kev was his right-hand man. Is she willing to take the risk to go on a witness stand and say, yes, I want to be cross-examined, or this is just a bluff?
You know, Mr. Gimmer, I was reading the same thing. Defamation is one of the most difficult things to win in a court of law. It requires, the three requirements of defamation. Okay, the person communicated has been whatever they said was to another outside person, a third person. The second thing, the person identifies you, to that person, and the last thing, within the communication, it has to be defamatory. Now, is this defamatory that if this is true or not? I'm not sure if it's going to be defamatory. Now, I've been sleeping with another man's wife is frowned upon in our society, very much so.
Mr. Eastman, real quick. Did he call anybody's name? I know you mentioned they should call you by name, identify you by name. From what you said that,
yes,
Keff Hassan did not call anybody by name.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. When you go into the court of law, these are the things you need to consider. You have to they have to have called you by name. They have to have called you out to another person. And then what the element of what they said has to be characterized as defamatory. Okay. He in the beginning, he was not calling names, but later he went into some details, but still, I don't see these cases like that go very far,
right,
in court. But it's just that ethically, this is not something we should be doing. Now, I understand it was in retaliation for what was said about President Weah. Okay, I think he could have gone on and talk about that and see how wrong it is for them to have indicated that, misinformed the public that he was sleeping with minors and stuff like that. He didn't have to get the Dr. Witherspoon involved. He did. There's something. I have to say that there's something a little bit sinister about him doing that. There's something sinister about it.
Mr.
And I think
Eastman, to push back on you a little bit, maybe you can answer this. You know, even when this whole story broke about Stanton with Witherspoon, what he did with the fake degrees he was selling, this lady is in the healthcare, a field. She's a doctor of psychology. So if she didn't recuse herself from the platform, she's working closely with a man who is endangering the lives of Americans, and who is putting the reputation of other Liberians in the nursing system at risk. She didn't recuse herself. She didn't step aside and say, you know what, Stanton, as a psychologist, this is not good. You either leave the platform or I will step aside until this whole situation has been resolved. She didn't take the lead. In fact, she was defiant. When the other guys left, she stayed on the platform. She refused to talk about it. She covered up for this guy. She never came up as a woman to say, you know what's going on. I don't agree with it. I don't think what's happening. Let's let the case play out. She was silent. She's still silent. They barely talk about what's going on with Stanton. So she's complacent. She's shown history of being complacent when it comes to wrongdoing.
Complacent or complicit?
Complacent. I would say complacent. That's the right word there. So
okay.
She's kind of covering up for this guy, and that's what we're all asking. Why hasn't this lady left? So you know what it says about unconditional love. When somebody loves somebody unconditionally, they stay by them no matter what. But I will hear your response.
No, actually, I agree with you. In fact, one of the other things you said about when they were talking about the book, you know, you didn't see her stand up for women in that case. Right. It's unfortunate that like we were talking about, when you have to live by a moral code and you can't be selective. In Liberia, will be selective. If you say this man, we shouldn't do this, but this man do it, he's your brother, he's your kinsman, or he's on your team, so you allow him a pass. We can't do that. If you're going to stick up for something that is wrong, then it should be applied across the board. So I tend to agree with you, especially when that case, when it happened to the president's wife, when they were trying to make derogatory remarks. The women have to defend women and not be selective. When it's ready, then it is bad. But then when it go on the other side, it's good. This is why we have not brought one person to justice and all the atrocities that were committed in the war. Not one person, because we are wishy-washy. We are not of conviction. And if you're going to ever amount to something, there's some principles you will have to live by, and not turn the corner every single time it doesn't suit you. So I agree with you. I do agree with you.
Mr. Kamara.
Yes, sir.
In Liberia, it looks like there are two spheres of people. When something happens to another group of people, it is considered high crime. When it happens to another group of people, it becomes nothing. I'm talking about the women in Liberia that call themselves activists. These women consider themselves activists against women. If you touch one, you touch all. But here we are, when Dr. Richardson, they saw what Keff said, and all of a sudden, everybody, they are persecuting Keff. They want to take him to the gallows. And here we are, Yekeh Koluba is assaulting verbally, graphically. They went mute. They said nothing about that. But they are all on their side saying Dr. Richardson was wrong. Keff should be sued. He should retract his statement. He should apologize. This is why we are having problems in Liberia, and why some of us are saying we are against the Economic Crime Court. Because if you bring the War and Economic Crime Court, you are not going to convict Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. You're not going to convict Uri, all of these people who financed the war. You are going to go after the Prince Johnsons of the world, the Yekeh Kolubas of the world, the Aliu Kamara, the Jimmy Eastman, the Elvis Gimel, those people who are way down there. We are the gun totals. They are not going to actually convict those. And we had evidence when the TRC report came. They said these people, aliens, should not be into power for 30 years. And they went down the list. The Supreme Court said they will set everything aside and let these people go. Now, the same people who were let go, they went and benefited from the war, are now coming back and say they are now the saviors and they want to come and save the place. So the duplicity of our Liberian advocacy, Mr. Kamara.
Yeah, first of all, let me say Francine does have a case. Except that you say her name wasn't mentioned, then that makes it a little more complicated for me. But from what I gathered, she was actually mentioned, and I may be wrong. She has a case. Now, the only place where there will be a hole for any lodger she might present to a court is if, for a fact, Hassan has evidence of the accusations that he made, because he made the accusations and the burden of proof is on him. If he does have evidences to prove that this woman actually had an affair with Stanton Weatherspoon, then of course she would have no case, because one of the foundation of this kind of matter is of defamation is if the person actually lied on you. But if what the person said about you is true, then you don't have a case.
Right.
So if Kev can prove that Stanton actually sent him these communications, that he had sex with Francine, then Francine will have to redirect her lawsuit.
Right.
She has to sue Stanton if she never had sex with Stanton. Now, Stanton will be the main person who has defamed her character. Stanton will be the one to actually pay for that. Right. Now, that's what she should be looking into if she actually did not have sex with Stanton. So she got two things to do here. She can go after Kev, and if Kev proves that Stanton did this, and Kev will be exonerated, she can actually go after that fellow. And I think it's childish for a man of my age, Stanton Weatherspoon, to sleep with a woman and actually tell his friend. I mean, we did that when we were in 6th and 7th grade. How can you be that old and stoop so low? And stoop so low.
You having sex in 6th and 7th grade, Mr. Kamara?
But you know now, don't judge Liberia standard by America now. 6th and 7th grade Liberia are grown men now. Don't do that.
Mr. Eastman, you go to Liberia now and you find a guy, you say, in fact, there was an interview, I know it's a sidetrack here, there was an interview on one of the podcasts 2 weeks ago, I think either Freedom FM or one of those, where this girl in Benjamin, she was trying to get back in school. She said she was in school, but because of circumstances on the farm, she's coming back to Benjamin to go to school. And they asked her, how old are you? And she said she's 17. She will soon be 18. They asked her, what grade you in? She said, I'm in the 2nd grade. And folks were laughing. And then some of us who said, for the courage that she has to be going back to school, determined to come back and finish her school, that alone is a victory, not just moral victory, but we all should support that. And they were raising money, and I have pledged to contribute towards that, because to me, that was more. So I think, Kamara, you got some point there when someone tell you, I mean, it says, I know now way back then, it just facetious to something. But Mr. Kamara, Mr. Eastman,
we used to call them Chirimpa.
Mr. Eastman, in America here, if you bring a claim, if I sue you that you did me wrong, the burden of proof is upon me to prove that you did me wrong, right? So in this case, Dr. Francine, even though her name was not called, her supporters are saying she's the only, even though Kev did not call anyone's name, he said the co-host and this and that. And they are saying, well, she's the only co-host on that. She's the only woman. And another side is saying, no, she's the only woman now. But before we had Yakula, we had other women on there who were also co-hosting. So which one are they talking about? And some people say it is implicit, it is clear, you can determine that. It's in the burden of proof on Dr. Richardson to go on that stand and be cross-examined and prove that it was she that Keff has slandered.
Yeah, that's a different thing. You're right about that. She can't prove that. If she wasn't named, she can't prove that. Then she has no kids. That's what I was saying.
No, Mr. Gaiman,
you know, the idea is if he described her adequately for them to leave no doubt that she was indeed the person spoken about. But to prove defamation, you know, first of all, things typically have to be established. First of all, usually you make a published statement. Now, social media, I guess, because it's out there, you could say will substantiate it being published or at least put out there. The second thing is that the statement must be false. Mm-hmm. Now, that is going to be the trickiest part, because if Keff said he's getting text messages, other kind of communications that would make him believe such, well, that would be something else. So everything, though, I heard him say, he did not say he was eyewitness to this. He kept saying he was told. So it's going to be interesting.
He was eyewitness to the one in Liberia, Mr. Eastman.
Mr. Eastman, he said he was eyewitness. He said when he came down, the group were upstairs having a breakfast, and he came down, and when he opened his room door, he says, you know, when he opened the door, the call was that I have her on the wall, and I'm fondling her. When he opened the door, he did see it, and he closed the door because there were
other boys to come in. His phone TV employees.
He did not want to see what was happening because he was embarrassed. Right. So this is what we are talking about. He didn't want to hear about it, but he witnessed it. Not only that, but he had text messages. In some instances, whenever she's talking on the show and trying to cut people off, he would text in the background and tell him, don't worry, she's just waiting for sex, she needs sex. So this is a man who takes women, okay, as a trophy, because Kev lifted 2 sheets of paper, say, I got all the names that he sent me here. So it is Elvis. Someone is saying here is whatever we say here, it has to do with our upbringing, it has to do with our culture, it has to be with the way we were brought up, our fraternities, our sororities. We allow this to happen, and every one of us can attest to some things in Liberia where we used to say the girls love the bad boys, okay? The Jimmy Eastmans of the world, Kamaras of the world, you would be.
No. See, this is the place where you can lose me. Don't be calling my name on this kind of generalization. Listen, everywhere in the world there are bad people and there are good people.
We are talking about Liberia. We are talking about Liberia.
In Liberia, there are a lot of decent men. Mr. Kamara is one. A single father who raised his daughter from the age of 11 months old.
Right.
And Mr. Kamara is from Liberia. And there are several of Mr. Kamara in Liberia. I'm trying to tell you, don't do this generalization.
Mr. Kamara, we're not generalizing. You are 1 in a million. That's what we are saying.
No, I don't agree. I don't agree with that. There are several Mr. Kamara in Liberia.
Mr. Kamara, we have every one of us here can attest to us having friends who have sat and kept conversation, nasty conversation about women. Unless you are not in the real Liberia,
but we have an age range for that. There's a bracket. You can't be 40 years old and sleep with a woman and go discuss it. I mean, what kind of man are you?
It's a grown man with a child's mind.
Yeah, I mean, that's not normal. It is not a Liberia thing. It's just an irresponsible thing. That's what I want you to know.
Okay,
right. I will not have you here to just destroy the image of my country.
Mr. Gaiman, let me come in quickly. I want to give you an example. Another example of selective outrage that I saw just, I think it was on Friday, on the closing argument with those same guys, they had a senatorial candidate for Cape Mount. Her name is, I think, Kula Fofana.
Yes.
They played the tape of her with Prince Johnson disparaging Charlene Brumskin, calling her a lesbian. And they asked her to use that same fervor and energy that she had to condemn Kev, to condemn Prince Johnson. She refused at every chance given. She refused to do so. She said she lied. She said she never heard the tape, so she's not going to comment on it. So the guys played the tape for her on the show. The first time she put herself in the back. She said she was busy. She didn't see it. They played it a second time for her. She said, "You know what? I'm not going to say anything. You know." But this lady, when she first came on the show, she was on her soapbox preaching how it's despicable what Kev did. It's this and that. She was disappointed. She was embarrassed. But when somebody who is aligned with her political affiliation says something disparaging about women, she can't even muster the courage to even say, you know what, if that's what he said, I condemn it, yada yada. One of these generic statements, she didn't even have the courage to say it. And this is a woman who says she's a women's activist in Liberia.
Liberian women do not believe in feminism. They're just acting. It's politics. It makes them look sophisticated. They don't believe in it.
They don't believe in it. But in that same token, Mr. Kamara, Mr. Gayman, don't think that women don't talk about men. Women discuss their sexual conquest with men, with their friends as well. It's human nature. I know that. Right. It's human nature. So women do the same thing, you know? So, I mean, it's part of our society. It's embarrassing that a woman, I think the reason why we are so uptight about this is because she has some stature in our society. She's a doctor, you know, but these things happen all the time.
She's a married woman, and he should have respected that. He should have been, look, if I confide in you, no matter, let me speak for me. If you confide in me, especially personal matters regarding others, it doesn't matter how much you make me angry. I will not go on social media and explain what you told me about somebody. Not gonna happen.
Mr. Kaba, I don't know if somebody come and attack, I mean, it's a political figure, but somebody come and attack your family member, that same person who you know you have some dirt on comes and attack your family member in such a vile way, by calling them a pedophile or a child molester or something like that. I mean, you gotta punch back. You gotta punch back.
Somebody attack his family member.
That's what I'm saying. I know it was a political figure of his.
Can my family member speak for him or herself? I mean, that's trivial. Who has sex with who? Mr. Kamara is 48 years old. You think I got time for who having sex with who? Go ahead.
Yeah, and then
Joe, what you doing?
Yeah, while he's coming back.
Hold on, guys. We got a quick call here.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm trying to end this thing, but not ending. What's going on here?
I think you gotta put him on speaker. We're not hearing him.
Yeah. Let me see.
I'm trying to cut this thing, but it's not going up.
Hello? I don't know whether he's loud enough.
We hear him, but I think you gotta put him on speaker and put him close to the mic.
Yeah.
You gotta put Mr. Kamara in the back, I think.
Kamara, I think it's yours.
I'm the one causing it. This person interrupting. They see me online, but they're still calling me by all calls. Intentionally disrupting me. Every time I call them up, they call me right back. This is deliberate. Okay, let me see they'll do it again.
Okay. So hold on with me. Let me call this gentleman who is trying to come on. He really been trying to call, and he wants. So here we are talking about. Am I clear? Yes, you're clear now. Can you guys hear him?
Can you put a volume?
Ali, where you going? They say. Are you hearing Mr. Eastman?
Oh, it's Mr. Gonglo. Okay. Hey. Yeah, we're hearing you. Go ahead.
Hey, is that the comrade?
Yeah.
Like you said, most women politicians in Liberia are not feminists. They are politicians. And I think if you reflect on this. Lima Bongo said the same thing to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf when she received the Nobel Peace Prize. Lima Bongo said Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was a politician, not a feminist. You know, so I just wanted to agree with Alio on that one. Alio said most women don't stand up for women causes; they are just politicians.
Okay, well, Mr. Gonglo, if they are just politicians, and people say politics is interest, isn't that their interest that they're espousing?
Well, you know, there is a distinction between being a feminist and being a politician. So if our women who are politically active are politicians, that's good enough. But sometimes they pick and choose their fight for women causes, and that's the problem with it. They are not people who identify strictly as feminists and they go all out there. Like, I mean, I listened to Elvis. The example Elvis gave with Kula Fofana, where she appeared on the show, and Prince Johnson has called a very respectable Liberian lawyer, Charlie Bronski, a lesbian. And she was asked, what do you say so? You have a passion to criticize Keff Hassan for saying whatever he said about Dr. Chinoway, Richardson. Do you have the same passion to condemn Prince Johnson for calling another woman lesbian, which is like attacking another woman? It's the same way Keff attacked a female. Prince Johnson attacked a female the same way. Kula Fofana ran away from that question. According to Evans, they played the tape, and she took us and said, I have no comments still. So, you see, she's just a politician. She's not a feminist. Right. You know, because she has no clear understanding, say, a fundamental position on what she'll fight for on behalf of women. She won't fight for what suits her political interest.
Right. Could you please identify yourself?
They barely identify.
I'm Kelabo Gonglo.
Oh, okay.
That's my name. I'm a panelist on Tough Talking Thursday.
Yeah, no. Where you calling from?
Brother, give me the man time.
Okay, this is Brother Gonglo, a frequent visitor to our show, a panelist on Tough Talking Thursday, but he felt that he needed to talk about this particular issue because we have to be able to define who are feminists and who are politicians, or what the difference, because in Liberia we are interchangeably talking about these folks when we know that they are not feminists, because you can see what's happening. They speak on issues that is in their favor, and then they are mute on other issues. Thank you very much, Mr. Gonglo.
Let me get a shout out to one person. One second, Mr. Eastman. Let me give a shout out to one person who I know is a real feminist, May Azango. She's been fighting for women's rights for the longest time, and she's been consistent with it. So let's give a big shout out to May Azango. I think you know who she is. She writes for Front Page Africa, and she's an activist, a very popular women activist who has been with the cause for a long time. So let's give some people their flowers while they're still here.
Right, but yeah, we have a follower and somebody who has their own program, Telvi Cole. Telvi Cole is in disagreement with Aliu and Gonglo. In other words, she is trying to say, I wish she would be here, because a feminist is somebody who advocates women's rights on the basis of equality and sex and everything else. Women's right, okay? Now, when you advocate women's right, that's what a feminist called. But if you, where is the right here that's being challenged?
Tell me about
When Prince Johnson made the disparaging remarks about Charlene Brumskin,
right.
was her rights being denied?
No.
Or as Aliu hit the word, that chauvinist male society over trying to slut shame her as they do. when Dr. Richardson was attacked, her character attacked, was her rights being denied?
No.
Or were they trying to slut shame her? So we need to properly understand what a feminist is really standing for. You know, now mistreatment of women can be probably one of those that can be categorized for what was feminists would stand against. So the way Mrs. Richardson was treated, the way Charlene was attacked, you can consider that the mistreatment of women. If you want isn't that politics then?
Mr. Eastman, what they are talking here is being selective.
Right.
Okay? If you are going to say anything against one woman is against all women, it makes sense. But for you to allow Prince Johnson or somebody else to call another lady lesbian with no facts,
right.
but then you are condemning Keff Hassan for calling this woman shameless.
Not calling her, just showing that he has proof that she had extramarital affairs.
Let me come in first. Let me just come in first.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Kamara. Go ahead.
Look, guys. Let me just tell you something. There's no such thing as feminism in Liberia, even among Liberian women in diaspora. These women are just want to be women. You know, they watch TV. They watch the news.
Mr. Kamara, you're disparaging some of the women in that fight for women's rights in this country.
Get his chance to land. Go ahead, Kamara.
They want to prove their sophistication. They want to show that now they have gone to school too. They have a master's. For them, there's a difference between being competitive and being a feminist. Liberian women are being competitive. They want to compete with men. They don't know how. So they're using feminism as a vehicle. Let me tell you this. Let me just tell you this. Mr. Ismail is on the show. I guarantee you, if Mr. Ismail wronged your daughter, Mr. Gilman, Mr. Ismail wronged your daughter, and you go at Mr. Ismail in a certain way on behalf of your daughter, I guarantee you, Mr. Ismail's daughter will go after you. It is not because something is wrong with them. It is in a woman's nature to follow. It is in a woman's nature to support. If I wouldn't vote for you if you wanted to become representative of Grand Bassa County. Your daughter and your wife will vote for you anyway, not for any reason, but because you are their father. They support, they help, they follow. It is within them naturally to do so. So let's just say, for example, now, Kula is with Joseph Boakai. She supports Joseph Boakai. Of course, once she decides to go behind Joseph Boakai, she's going to go behind. Let's look at the ANC people, for example. These ANC people, they have the largest amount of these feminists. They call themselves
strong women. The word is strong women. Strong women, Mr. Kamara.
Excuse me 1 minute. Edith Gonglo was in the race in 2020 in Nimba County. Yasinik P. Martin fought Edith Gonglo with everything in her for a guy named what's that guy named?
The
ANC women fought another woman for a man. Now you had this woman called Mandela Cooper in the race to become president. In fact, she had to drop her because she has no woman support, even though she's a woman. Guess who the ANC women go to and try to get all the women to go to? To follow and support a man called Cummins. So, and then after they do that, and then when they hear something that conveniences them, then they come up and say, oh, women liberation, women freedom. Let me just say this, and I'm going to be on the record for saying this. Liberia is one of the very few countries in the world where men stand up in honor of a woman for her to sit down instead. I have never been in any congregation in Liberia among people who never went to school where a woman was standing while men were sitting. I see that in America. My grandmother was illiterate. My grandmother was head of the zoos in Timor District, Grand Bassa County. When the men decided, the paramount chief, the clown chief, everybody, when they have meeting in the middle of the town, for those of you who've been in the villages, they got a town hall in the middle of the town. Before that meeting gets started, my grandmother must be present. And she was a woman. So I'm telling you to note that our society have a high level of respect for women, our culture specifically, Liberian culture. Read between the lines, and you will see that. And our women are built to support, even though they want to pretend to be something they're not. They're adapting things they're not able to handle. Because they're not able to handle, their presentations are very wrong, and it always backfires on them.
Let me jump in quick here, Mr. Gaiman. I want to agree with what Mr. Kamara said, but not in its totality. I will agree with you that when it comes to women's rights issues in Liberia, I think we are more progressive than some of our counterparts in the region. We had the first woman president in the entirety of Africa. That was a big thing. People talk about Swakoko. That was a huge thing as well. You know, a woman's Zoe. You know, we, like Mr. Kamara was calling a few other names. So I don't think we are a sexist, society. Definitely not. I don't think so. I think women, gets a lot of rights in Liberia. Look at the United States of America, that is quote unquote more progressive than Africa as a whole. Never had a woman president. Just had the first vice president in the history of their country. We've had both a woman president and a current sitting vice president in our country.
Chief justices, women.
Right, Chief Justice. Two Chief Justice. We had the first woman Chief Justice in the history of
they
West
had
Africa.
their first under Barack Obama. Great Chancellor time will have Gloria Scott, Chief Justice.
So we are progressive when it comes to women issues, and I don't think when women are on the ballot, men specifically vote against them because they're women. But it happens in this country. A lot of Democrats who were men decided to vote against Hillary Clinton because they felt like we wasn't ready for a woman president. And that's sexist. So the part I disagree with you with is that there are no Liberian feminists. When they say feminists,
I didn't say that. There are no Liberian feminists. I didn't say that. I said they don't believe in it.
Well, I don't know if I agree with it. That there are women who fight for the rights of somebody like the former TRC commissioner who we have on this platform often, Mrs. Martha Washington. She's an advocate for women's rights, and I think she does a good job at it.
On the surface, let me tell you something about that girl. About that woman.
No, Mr. Kamara, let's not go there. Let's not go there with her. Let's not go there.
I'm being positive here. That woman is more traditional. You're talking about what her name?
Washington.
Martha Washington. Martha Washington is more traditional. Listen to Martha Washington on her personal podcast when she discusses her relationship with the person she's with and her role. And you will realize that she's not just that feministic person you think of. Martha Washington speaks for the right of everyone, not female, not just female. Martha Washington went as far as France. It wasn't because of female. Martha Washington worked at the TRC. It wasn't because of female. It was because of atrocity committed against people. So let us understand that some people, Martha Washington and some people, they stand for the right of human beings, and they're not very segregated. If you listen to her and you know her, you realize that she is a traditional African woman. And by that, I do not mean that she's somehow subservient in the literary meaning of the word subservient. But the fact is, she knows the demarcation. In as much we are all equal in the eyes of things, she knows the demarcation. She knows the fact that there's a man and there's a woman and there are different species. Martha Washington knows that very well.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We are having a heated debate here.
Don't make the women mad with us on this Father's Day, please, Mr. Kamara.
I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for leaving your Father's Day event to come and watch us do your contribution. Finally, here we are coming to politics in Liberia. Lately, we saw something in Lofa County where Honorable Joseph Boakai, former Vice President Joseph Boakai, has been supported by most of the Unity Party folks from Lofa County. But recently, his staunchest supporter,
I knew you were going to go there,
Brandon Samokai, decided to break ranks with Vice President Joseph Boakai and said that he is not going to support for the Senate race who Joseph Boakai has picked. And now we have Mr. Kotima, the former superintendent of Lofa County, that was defeated in this past election. He has the Unity Party through Joseph Boakai has picked him And Brownie Samokai said, on this particular one, he is going to part ways with the vice president and campaign against Kotima. Mr. Eastman, few weeks ago, there was a post, and someone said, why is it so quiet in the CDC camp? We are not hearing any bazooka being fired, no fire. Everybody's muted. Everything is so calm in the CDC camp. And somebody else came and say, if you see that in politics, that is the incumbent. Somebody is fighting their dirty work. The opposition are killing each other, literally. So why should the incumbent get involved? They're enjoying this. Mr. Eastman, Lofa County is going to be a battleground. And the two giants in Lofa County are now clashing, going head to head. What is going on? What do you see here?
Politics in motion, man. I like to see people from, challenging each other, especially in Lofa. Lofa is held up as a very traditional place, but you can see that there are certain things that supersede tradition. And now we're seeing two people come together. In fact, there was another group the other day that were pledging support for the CDC. I don't know if you saw that demonstration. They're a whole group that came together. The Samokai and Boakai going at sometimes you have to wonder the judgment of the VP.
Yep.
And I say that because even his choice, the time he supported that guy, all the chiefs, all the people said, this guy came to us and told us we need to get people from two different areas, not all from the same area to represent us. Then he turns around and try to put two of the same people back in the same area. He who told us that we were voting, and they voted against him. So we're seeing, that even though the people are traditional, but they think, and they will not vote for who they don't think deserves that position. So I think it's very, very healthy, and I like to see that our people's conscience is awake and alive. That will make a good choice come October.
Mr. Kamara.
Yes, sir.
This is huge. We have the nephew and the uncle are going lockerheads in Lofa County. He says, I will support you for the presidency, but I'm going to vote against you or your choice during the senatorial bid, and I'm going to campaign vigorously against you on that. Mr. Kamara, isn't this a wedge issue that the opposition, which is the incumbent, could use to their advantage to see the two elephants in their time fighting?
No. The reason why we say no is because you have to look at history. This is no new thing. Sorry about that. Let me close the window. This is no new thing happening in Lofa. It happened in 2005. Joseph Boakai raised people's hands. They didn't support the people Joseph Boakai supported because the people said they didn't want them, but they would support Joseph Boakai. They did in 2005. It happened in 2013, I believe, by election. Two other persons Joseph Boakai put up. They took one and they left one. This has been the history of Lofa. Now, let me just say this to you. Galakbai Kotime was with the CDC. Did you know that? And he ran in that election. He couldn't even come up with 5,000 votes. Joseph Boakai took him in the last by-election and took his hand up, and he lost only by 700 votes. You understand what I'm saying to you? Now, the problem here we are having is that Honorable Bernard Samukai is loyal to Galakbai Kotime for everything that Galakbai did for him during the election. his victory in Lofa County, the election that the position you guys took away from him. Now he owes this guy, and one of his arguments is that Steve Zago is from another political party. But what the honorable doesn't understand is that politics in some instances is give and take. You have Yombli Kanga, my own big sister, who has given everything. She's been insulted by ANC, insulted by CDC, dragged in the mud by Musa Ability. She has said she's not leaving her daddy. And then Musa Ability and other people, some way, somehow, have the party in a complete deadlock. So these guys cannot run on Liberty Party ticket. So Yombli tell her dad, they said, Dad, you know what? We have to arrange something. Steve Zago has to stay in here because Steve Zago has been here. He's been with you. He's been with us. Okay, so Galapilo, here's the deal. We've already let Yombli down once. Cannot let her down twice. We're going to win this election. You are with us. You're already with us. The position of a senator is not you don't have to be a senator. I supported you then, and I'm telling you now, I'm not supporting you now. The first time you stood on your own with the CDC, you got 5,000 votes. The second time you stood with me, you only lost by 700 votes. And I'm telling you now, let us give it to this man. Now, I can understand where Bernard Samuka is coming from, but at this particular time, this is politics, and Yombli deserves this. Steve Zago deserves this. And the people of Lofa County understands that politics in some cases is a give and take, and the Unity Party forward is behind Steve Zago at this point.
Well,
okay.
Elvis, chime in.
Yeah, quickly, I want to say this. You know, tribal politics in Lofa, you know, when you have big counties with multiple tribes, it's always difficult. You saw the same thing that happened with Prince Johnson in Nima. It's almost parallel to this. You know, he was supporting somebody because he thought that the people was mad at him because most of the representatives coming out of Nima was from the Don ethnic group. So you try to go with a man, and the people say, well, no, because this guy has been really good to us. He's been doing a lot of work, been helping to fix the road. So the one with Sam Brown over the doctor that Prince Johnson supported. So in the same case with Kotima and Jala, the people went with Jala because they know the work that he did. He comes from a minority ethnic group within the county, and people want to see, you know, that group being represented. So politics in Liberia is not as blind as people think, like Mr. Eastman said. Liberian people, their eyes are open. They understand the cohesion between having political power and having peace within the counties. So I think Joseph Boakai will do the right thing to support somebody that will come from, you know, the Bani ethnic group, for example, who has been underrepresented in the county. But somebody like Brani Samuka, I don't even pay them no mind. This is a guy who lost his mandate because he was a convicted criminal in the justice system, all the way up to the Supreme Court.
That's a whole different argument.
No, it's not an argument. The law is the law. Once the Supreme Court interprets the law, it's final, Mr.
CDC Supreme Court is not always.
Oh yeah, they only had three justices on that Supreme Court, even two, I would say. So it's not a CDC Supreme Court. They were all from Ellen Johnson's Shelley time or longer. So please, the guy's a convicted criminal. We shouldn't even pay him any man. She shouldn't even be having.
That's your next police director. I can assure you that.
No, he shouldn't. You tell me who will confirm him? A convicted criminal?
How are you put a criminal there as police director?
Yeah. Who will confirm me in the Senate? He shouldn't even be allowed. What do you mean? How is he a criminal? He stole money. He's a thief.
Mr. Elvis, Mr. Kamara, it wouldn't even help. The man was convicted,
right?
And affirmed and reaffirmed by the Supreme Court. He's a felon, so we're not here to even.
I don't think he's even eligible for any kind of governmental job.
Why is he not?
Second, Joseph Boakai has not winning anything, so don't even worry about it.
Okay, well, fair enough.
Mr. Gamer, please open the phone lines. People are claiming to call. Please open the phone lines.
Open the regular phone line, not our personal line. The regular phone line, the people are used to that.
I don't know if we have the means to do it.
You don't know how to open it.
Excuse me. It has to happen from the other end. So if Anthony
I saw Jai, yeah. Let me see if I can
Mr. Jai, if you're there, please post our regular numbers so our folks can call the line directly. But yes, we are talking about if Mr. Kamara, who is actually a student of fair play, of justice, of equal rights, if you're going to come here today and say that a convicted felon will be...
But I can explain myself. I don't believe he's a convicted criminal. That's the difference.
He's disqualified for holding that office because he's a convicted criminal.
And I can explain myself.
So wait a minute. I want to ask you something before you explain it, because I want you to be careful what you're about to say. If somebody has already gone through court and been brought down as guilty and has a criminal record, you still would appoint that person even though you haven't expunged his name from any criminality?
His name has been, first of all, he was pardoned by judge. But let me just say this to you. What part of
his sentence was commuted and pardoned is different.
Exactly.
But listen, I just said to you, he's going to be your next police director. And by that I mean there will be a president that will drop everything on him, because we don't believe that it is. Listen, this is a man that used money based on the instruction from the commander-in-chief, and you hold a man responsible for it.
He couldn't prove it in court. Wait a
minute now. The man called the former president name. The court refused.
Listen, Mr. Kamara, when you go to court, we don't go by calling somebody. You have to let witness.
Okay, let's just go with it. What's today? Today is June 18th. Today is June 18th. Your next police director will be Bernard Samukai.
Listen to this. Mr. Kamara, if you went to court and you had your witnesses, you gave the name of your witnesses, and your witness would be put on the witness stand.
Do you understand the magnitude of the case you're talking about? You're talking about the defense minister.
It would be a demotion for Brandon Samuka to be defense minister and then go down to police director.
Why you say that?
That's a demotion because a defense minister is higher than a police director. It's
Why
a ministerial post.
That? Who told you that?
Because you're coming from a ministerial post to a directorship. It's a step down.
What are you saying, my man?
Am I wrong, Mr. Eastman? Is it not a step down? Is it not a step down?
Mr.
You don't know anything.
Minister and directors are not on the same level, Mr. Kamara.
All directors are not equal.
Mr. Morris.
Go ahead, Mr. Goodman.
We are talking about the fight in Lofa County here.
All right.
Let's get back to that.
Let's talk about the CDC. Okay? For the uncle and the nephew in Lofa to be fighting.
No, they're not fighting. That's misinformation.
Listen to this. It is going to be...
Somebody said they're not supporting somebody. That's it. No fighting.
Khartoum is on one ticket being supported by...
that is not the way it is.
Joseph Boakai. And the last time Joseph Boakai profiled this guy, he was beaten like a dog. Now they are being back for a second round. And the man who won that Senate seat in Lofa County by a landslide, Brandon Samuka said...
What landslide? 700 vote difference in landslide?
No, Samuka won that seat.
Oh, you talking about Samuka? Yeah, Samuka,
won that seat by the landslide. He said over his dead body.
But they say Samuka campaigned for Galapai Kotiman, right? And Galapai Kotiman still lost.
Listen to this.
Lofa County don't vote for you like that. They vote for who they choose.
Mr. Morris.
Yes.
Put your CDC hat on. You are in the witness stand. In the review stand. You are in. We're talking about gladiators here. They are fighting, and you're in the Coliseum. And they say the next guy, the winner of this fight, will fight you next. And you see them killing each other, and they can barely stand. Why will you intervene? Why should the CDC intervene? Isn't this to the advantage of the CDC?
Well, of course. The fact that CDC even has one representative in Lofa County, that's a plus. I don't know any UP partisan who is in the southeast from George we are stronghold. But let me say this: when it all comes down to it, it's about money, and that's one of the things that made CDC win the last election in Lofa County, because they mobilized, they used their resources and their logistics to get Jala elected. And I think McGill was
Let me tell you.
instrumental.
Let me tell you.
Mr. Kamara, please give me my chance to land, please. And I think Minister McGill was instrumental in that victory. I'm a little bit worried as a Sidician that he's not on the playing field. And I said it before, United States sanction is not binding on Liberians unless we decide to do it. So if somebody like Prince Johnson is active in our political atmosphere, why can't President Weah bring back Nathaniel McGill? Why not? He was very effective. He spread money around, and he got people elected. So if people like Prince Johnson is going to be putting the thumb on the scale, so to speak, President Weah need to bring his right hand man back to get some of these election, these seats won for the CDC. But for me, let JMB and people fight. The reality is, when it comes to election, they don't have enough money to run an election, and that's the disgrace about United Party. You're in power for 12 years, still your party is still broke. CDC was not in power for 12 years. They managed to survive and win election. United Party can boast of any logistical, any victory in their own stronghold in Lofa County. And then you have a criminal going against the vice president, saying that Kotuma, who they promised, and still they're refusing to give it to him for this time around. So CDC is sitting pretty right now, but bring back McGill. Lama protest, bring back McGill.
Mr.
If Prince Johnson can play, McGill can play.
Mr. Eastman,
Yeah.
The NEC just announced, I think, is it July 6th or the 24th of this month, you can declare your intent. You can register to compete, to be in the race. When that happens, when everybody has shown their hands, now that Prince Johnson is going from county to county campaigning, wouldn't this open the door for the likes of McGill and Bill Twiway to come out and say, if Prince Johnson is going from county to county, he was sanctioned just like I was. And the last time I saw Vani Sherman in Cape Mount campaigning, making speeches, he too was sanctioned. So why wouldn't these guys get back into the race to campaign and do what they do best?
But that ship already sailed, Mr. Gaiman. Your boy is all over the place in Margibi campaigning. They are having rallies and everything, big turnouts. So they will do what they want, and I call this a miscarriage of justice, because if we are not going to pursue, if somebody is sanctioned by a foreign government, okay, first of all, we need a policy on sanctioning by foreign government. We need a foreign policy. It shouldn't be ad hoc. Number two, if someone is sanctioned by a foreign government and they end up resigning due to it, so you will not even do any kind of investigation at all. I mean, that's just the same with the war crimes court today. There's nothing we do with conviction and principles. We just, whatever how it applies at the time, it works. So those people those guys will do what they want to do. I see Bill Tyler, and he won't be something in Bassa or Riverside.
Mr. Gilbert, please open the lines. Please open the lines.
Liberia is that kind of country. And you know something, I wanted us to talk about something. You see, when you have a revolution, your revolution is supposed to bring in new ideas, new ways of thinking. If you look at the American Revolution, when they had the revolution, what did they do? They said, look, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and that they are endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights.
Yeah, right.
These life. Please don't interrupt me, okay?
Well, I didn't say nothing.
Okay. Life, liberty, and pursuit. And then you see, you come with an idea, you come with a belief, a system, and on those beliefs you build a system.
When was the last time you met the police? All men are created equal.
My man, please, no one don't try to interrupt you. Why do you do that?
Listen, Mr. Kamal, let the man finish. That's why
we need some core beliefs to live by. We cannot live by this jungle justice. Okay, we need things that so we can build on. How can we build a society when we have not agreed how we will live with each other? So all this thing that's going on, if we don't establish principles and live by them, we're not going anywhere. It doesn't matter who becomes elected. It doesn't make a difference. We'll be the same.
Mr. Gibson, let's take call, please. I'm advocating for the people today. So, hot button issue people want to. You can put your number out there. We can get the lines open. We got to give people a chance to call in, please. I'm advocating for them.
Mr. Gamer.
Yeah, we gotta call here. Tavita is on the line. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good afternoon, and Tavita from Texas. Happy Father's Day to everybody. And so it's not happy. Happy Father's Day to you. But anyway, good show though. I really wanted to listen in, but I think it's important I call it for one. I disagree with Mr. Aliyo, and I think we disagree on so many levels on different issues. But there's for him to just generalize and say all like real women are not feminists. I think you cannot take a broad brush, whatever your experience is, to just come paste everybody. You know, first thing we must understand the definition of feminism, and I think that's not clear to you, because if you understand what feminism is there for,
did I say that?
But not say. Excuse me?
Did I say that? Did I say all women are feminists?
Yes, you said that. You said
I did not. Did I say that?
But when I did how this is not a political argument.
I was just trying to correct you. That's all that I didn't say.
Aliyo, let her land.
You talk, I listen. I talk, you listen. Effective communication. So so we have to be clear about it. You know, the whole idea of feminism is talking about equal rights and equal opportunities. And some of us stand true for it. Doesn't mean we're disrespectful to men. The men that in our lives that we encounter, we speak to them respectfully. We disagree, but we have to disagree. I must say our culture, you know, it's something new for them, because typically the culture, they're not used to us being like these strong women or being having a voice in discussion and all of that. So I get sometimes, I know you're a traditionalist, I get it, but you can't paint everybody with a broad brush. And to the caller, I'm not sure his name, and Nima always said that, you know, my Salif is not a feminist or politician. I'm not going to go there because that's all political talk. The same person she's talking, I'm not backing for Mother Salif. I don't even know her. I don't even care about her, you know, what happened to her leadership. But Mother Salif, the history is there. She gave the very award that she got. She brought her to what she got. And after she landed, she had the words to say. You know, so we're not going there. That's the after school fight and all the political fights. You know, some people on social media, they're feminists, and then they're politicians. Depending, you know, what side of the bed or what movement you get them in, they change their hats. You have people like that. That's their business. But you can't just paint everybody with a broad brush. Now to the Keff Hassan case, you know, this is the first time probably I've been making a lot of small posts about it. Just let me speak to this and let me go to record to people who let us, you know, clip things. Yeah, they clip this one. You know, there are a lot of beliefs to go around. There are some things that people tell, you know, when people tell us things, however bad or good it is, yes, it is important that we keep it in. To be give myself with something, I'm like it, you know, me. So, what Keff said on the show, even if Stanton told him that environment was, he should have kept it to himself, because even if Stanton told him he was for his own consumption. So I get it. But, you know, we're looking at Keff, looking at the gentleman, Stanton Wilson, who is very slammery, who is very distasteful, who's very disrespectful, who records people, even in a friendly conversation, records people, share personal text messages. You know, I was just talking to a friend the other day. I said, those days when we were growing up, before all this technology era, I could call my friend Mr. Gilman and just be vulnerable and talk about anything. And that conversation stays between us. But nowadays, you can't trust anybody. Even your best friend, you're on the phone with them, you think you would be being vulnerable and just talking anything, and they record. You don't even know who to trust. So we have to talk about Keff, but we also have to talk about Stanton, who has a proven record of recording people or even having personal conversations when he's in his car and his friends are there. And he's in his car, and people in his car, and he got people on speakerphone and talking about and having those conversations, putting the other person on the other side at risk.
Right.
Maturity is just a better word to put it. So, you know, I'm not going to go there with, you know, Francine about her marital life. What she chose to do, that her business is on her family to decide what direction. But we must put blames where blames belong, and not on one person. You know, Francine equally so. You know, and that's why I agree with the gentleman says, you know, some people can be feminists, and some people can let be there to protect the interests of politicians. Several times she's been on that platform. He's disrespected other women, disrespected other men. Or it's funny, whatever it is. She stood up for it. Yeah, well, just yesterday after this whole Keff event, I don't watch Suing Keff. I had to watch it. Stanton was there talking about somebody's medical record. You know what he Xanax and all of that. She as a medical professional, and I'm a professional. As a political idol, she should like check Stanton, whatever it is. Because people is on the ground, you're looking for as many people to take with them. But regardless, even if you're the highest mountain, you should have checked me and say, you know what? As a professional, I'm not going to have this conversation. I'm not going to be part of this discussion. So discuss somebody's medical record. It is professional and in every way in the public space. It's not illegal if now, you pay that. So she never stopped and you went on and on and on and on. Where do you draw the line as a professional? Where do you draw the line? When you got education or whatever your status is, you also help to a certain standard. Must come for what it is. Equally so. Keff Hassan mentioned, without names, he mentioned other women. I think he mentioned about Stanton, 2 other sister-in-laws that he tempered with. I'm not saying allegedly that he tempered with.
You're not saying allegedly, you know that for a fact?
I'm not saying allegedly, I'm choosing my words on purpose. And I feel responsible for my statements. The so-called people who go there, I call them selective outrage club. They're not running with those other ladies. Is it because they're single? Is it because she is the friend? Is it because she part of the party? Is it because of she's my mentor? They're running one direction. Stanton is my friend. Stanton can get you the good and stopping people like where are those 2 other ladies? Why not? You're not just a married woman, so I don't match up because I'm a single woman? No, it is not fair. And that's why some would not be proud of that. Because some things can be a why are they not outraged about that? When somebody decides to, I've been victim of this so many times just because people know I'm a very strong person and I'm very vocal how I feel. I don't care if I'm standing alone. When people decided to attack my character just because I told them to start doing certain things on social media, it seems to do the same manner because it had legal consequences. They went after me. Yes. The so-called advocate that I'm making sure 100 posters today. Did any of them come to my rescue? Did any of them even make a post or talk about it? No. I can go down the list. Best friend of Yasini, I can go down into the rest. Because she's the mother of so let me start with her. She's the mother of on Facebook. Let me start with, it is not a payback, but we must call it for what it is.
I tell you what, sis, I'm going to make sure I got your number. I'm going to call you next Sunday. This is so important. If you have the time next Sunday, we want you to come here and discuss this because this is very important. We have to take each other to task if we are going to build a new nation. If we're going to respect our character, we need to do this. So thank you for calling. We have another show coming up, and I'll call you, okay? Yeah. Oh, she's
All right.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. It was a decent show, Mr. Eastman. Real quick, closing so we can close down. We got another show coming.
Oh, elections getting hotter every day. Something new, something come. We are in for a little bit of a roller coaster. Above all, remember to keep the peace and let's live for something, not live by something.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kamara, real quick.
Yeah, real quick. First of all, I did not say that Liberian women were not feminists. That's not what I said. All right. And secondly, I don't know what her name is. What's her name again? I know what the word feminist means. I mean, you can be vocal without being condescending. See, that's the problem. When a man does it, he's a chauvinist. The woman should just go straight at a man. You know what I mean? But all in all, what I was saying was most women are mostly about justice, about defending justice and equal rights, as opposed to being a feminist. I said Liberian women in general do not believe in feminism, and I stand by that. And everything indicates to that. Okay, if you see Davina came on here a few minutes ago, she went straight against the ANC women. That tells you she's not a feminist either. She's discussing justice. She's discussing justice, and that's what I'm saying, and it's a fact. But it's been a great show. We'll always be able to come here on Sunday, and I'll be glad to have Tavina on here. Hopefully, you can have another female as well. Let us have 2 or 3 of them on here so they can give us a woman's perspective. But for a man like me who was raised by all women, grandma and aunties, I also know women very well, and I can tell you Liberian women are not feministic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's another sweeping statement there.
Yeah, Mr. Morris, go ahead real quick.
Thank you. Quickly, I just want to say, I respect women's agency over their bodies. Women can sleep with whoever they want to, but with every action, there is a risk and a reward. And in this case, Dr. Richardson took the risk, and she's dealing with the consequences. So involving yourself in extramarital affair, we're not here to cover your dirt. You got married publicly. You post your pictures on Facebook. Everybody saw your marriage because you want people to know that you're committed to one man. So if you break that vow and somebody exposes you, it's not the end of the world. People cheat, men cheat, women cheat. We live with that consequences and we move on our life. It's not the end of the world, and it's part of politics. I will leave it there. I don't want to take too much time.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It is Sunday, 4 o'clock. It is on point. We look forward to seeing you next Sunday. If you are a female out there and you want to join us next weekend, you are welcome. We'd like to have your perspective. We'll call Tavina. Hopefully she can join us. And we look forward to, I want to say thank you. Shout out to my twin girls. They surprised me, took me out, and treated me very nicely. Dory and Lori, thank you very much. Daddy loves you. And ladies and gentlemen, please tune in. We got a nice show coming up. If you are a religious person, you want to learn a lot about religion, you got it next. God bless and see you next Sunday.
We all love you. Is our